The grand ballroom sparkled under crystal chandeliers, voices blending into a low hum of admiration and clinking glasses. Alexander Vance stood near the edge, sharply dressed, every detail meticulously perfect, yet inside, a quiet unease gnawed at him. Success had given him everything he ever wanted: power, wealth, fame, but it could not erase the ache buried deep within. Tonight, at this charity gala, the universe seemed to conspire against him. Across the room, a woman moved with an effortless grace, radiance surrounding her like sunlight breaking through clouds. Her laughter, warm and genuine, struck a chord he thought long silenced. But it wasn't just her, it was the young man at her side, tall and confident, his eyes strikingly familiar. A mirror of Alexander himself, yet untouched by the cynicism of years. Every gesture, every smirk reminded him of the boy he had been, the one who once dreamed of love and family before ambition consumed him. The realization hit like a cold wave: this was more than chance, it was a reckoning. Faces blurred around him, the music faded, and all he could see was the life he had abandoned, standing before him with an innocence he had long lost. The air thickened with unspoken questions. Could he face the reflection of his own choices? Could he confront the years he had traded for skyscrapers, contracts, and fleeting admiration? Tonight, Alexander Vance would discover that even the highest towers cannot shield a man from the ghosts of the life he left behind, and that the past, no matter how carefully buried, has a way of returning, not for vengeance but for truth. Alexander's pulse quickened as he forced himself to approach, each step heavy with a mix of fear and anticipation. The young man's eyes locked with his for a brief, unnerving moment, an uncanny reflection of his own once ambitious gaze. Memories he had carefully buried for 20 years surged like a tidal wave: the small apartment with peeling wallpaper, Ellie's laughter echoing through their kitchen, the quiet nights they had shared dreaming of a life together. He had traded all of that for boardrooms, skyscrapers, and deals that made headlines, yet left a void no fortune could fill. Ellie noticed him then, and for a heartbeat, time seemed to freeze. Her expression, calm, composed, yet carrying a subtle pain, pierced him deeper than any success ever had. The young man's hand rested lightly on her shoulder, protective, proud, unaware of the storm he was stepping into. Alexander's mind raced. Could he approach, speak, apologize, or would any word be too late? The gala faded around him, the laughter and music dulled by the thundering realization that life had circled back, confronting him with a mirror of his own abandoned choices. Tonight would not be ordinary. Tonight demanded truth, reckoning, and the courage to face what he had lost, perhaps forever. Alexander stood frozen for a moment, the young man's presence unnervingly familiar, as if the years had folded in on themselves. The resemblance was uncanny. His posture, the determined set of his jaw, even the restless energy in his hands mirrored his own youth. Memories of Ellie flashed relentlessly, the nights they had planned a future together, the whispered promises, the warmth of her hand in his. All of it had been exchanged for ambition, for a life measured in titles and wealth, yet hollow at its core. Ellie's gaze met his again, steady and unyielding, and for the first time in decades, Alexander felt exposed, stripped of pretense. He realized that the young man beside her wasn't just a stranger. He was a living reminder of what Alexander had sacrificed, a reflection of the path he might have walked if he had chosen differently. The room's chatter faded, the lights blurred, leaving only the stark truth. Every empire he had built, every accolade he had earned, could not reclaim the love he abandoned. Alexander's heart pounded with a mixture of regret and awe. Tonight was not just a reunion, it was a reckoning, a chance to confront the consequences of choices made in the name of ambition, and perhaps, to glimpse a path to redemption he had never dared to imagine. Alexander's breath caught as he finally stepped closer, every instinct urging him to retreat, yet some deeper force compelled him forward. The young man's sharp eyes followed his movement, calculating yet calm, unaware of the silent storm he represented. Ellie remained poised, the years having strengthened her grace and confidence, but Alexander sensed the quiet strength she carried, the resilience that had always anchored him. He remembered the small sacrifices she made, the endless nights working to support his dreams, the unwavering faith that had once been his foundation. And now, facing her and this living mirror of himself, he felt the weight of all he had lost. The young man's presence was almost unbearable, a testament to the life Alexander had forsaken. Every gesture, every subtle smile, seemed to mock him gently, revealing what could have been. Alexander realized that this moment was more than chance. It was a mirror held up to his soul. The laughter, the elegance, the unspoken bond between them, it was a life he might have shared, a family he might have raised, all shimmering just out of reach. In that instant, Alexander understood that true wealth was never counted in buildings or titles, but in love, in connection, and in the moments that time would never return. Tonight, the past demanded to be faced, and he had no choice but to confront it fully. Alexander felt a sudden pull in his chest, a mix of longing and dread as he watched the young man laugh quietly at something Ellie said. Every nuance, every movement, reminded him of the boy he once was, ambitious, hopeful, untainted by regret. The realization hit him like a thunderclap. This was more than coincidence. The young man carried the same spark, the same determination, yet his path had been guided by love and support Alexander had abandoned. Ellie's serene expression contrasted sharply with the whirlwind of emotions inside him: pride, sorrow, and an ache he could no longer ignore. Memories of their modest apartment, of whispered dreams and shared sacrifices, flooded him, each one sharper than the last. He wanted to speak, to reach out, to explain, but words felt inadequate, hollow against the gravity of 2 decades of choices. And yet something shifted. The young man turned toward him, eyes briefly meeting Alexander's, and in that fleeting moment, the bridge between past and present trembled. The room seemed to fade around him. It was just the 3 of them suspended in time. Alexander realized that this encounter was not merely about facing what he had lost. It was a chance to understand, to feel, and perhaps to make amends in ways words could never fully capture. Tonight, his heart would reckon with everything he had spent a lifetime trying to ignore. Alexander's hands tightened at his sides as the music and chatter of the gala faded into a distant hum. He took a deliberate step forward, the weight of the years pressing down on him, yet also bringing a strange clarity. The young man beside Ellie met his gaze again, and for a heartbeat, the resemblance was almost too much to bear. His own ambition and impatience reflected in another's eyes, tempered by love and loyalty Alexander had once taken for granted. Ellie's calm, steady presence drew him in, reminding him of the warmth and patience he had abandoned, the life he had walked away from in pursuit of power. He realized that wealth, fame, and accolades had never filled the void she once occupied so effortlessly. In that moment, the distance of 20 years collapsed. Every skyscraper he built, every deal he celebrated, seemed trivial against the depth of human connection he had forsaken. Alexander knew he could not rewrite the past, but perhaps he could honor it, by acknowledging his mistakes, by appreciating the strength and grace that had shaped the woman before him, and by seeing the young man not as a rival or threat, but as a living testament to choices guided by love rather than ambition. Tonight was not just a reunion, it was a profound lesson, a mirror held up to his soul, showing him that true legacy was measured not in riches, but in love, courage, and the lives touched along the way.